As the 1990s progress, David Bowie does too. He decides that he wants to change musical direction yet again. And after the somewhat failed experience of Tin Machine, he decides he wants to be more commercial again, and he decides at the end of the decade to lend his voice to a video game. Ah, David, such changes. So you're ready to drop the needle on what David's doing in the 1990s? All right then, let's drop that needle. By 1993, David Bowie was still smarting over the failure of Tin Machine. And as I said, he wanted to be more commercial, so he figured the best way to do that was to partner again with producer Nile Rodgers, who had had such success with the album Let's Dance that they figured, well, let's try it again. David has said that the title was written after he and his wife had been stuck in Los Angeles during the race riots. Besides the title, I Like the Wedding and the Wedding Song, both Bowie wrote for his wedding to Iman. I also like Miracle Tonight and Don't Let Me Down. The magic that David was looking for on this album was certainly there. In the UK, it went to number 1, but in the US, it could only reach 39. But he felt it was a step in the right direction. In 1993, David meets up with novelist Hanif Kureishi, who has written a book called The Buddha of Suburbia, and David agrees to compose the music for a series that the BBC is going to do on television. But once David starts working with it, he decides he wants to make it a full album. And in fact, the resulting album contains only one song. That was the title track, used by the BBC. The album flopped and received little promotion from the BBC or from David Bowie. In fact, the album wasn't even released in the US until 2 years later under a different cover. In 2003, Bowie says it's his favorite album, and a lot of people refer to it as the lost great David Bowie album, because very few people ever heard it. Next, David takes a short story that he's working on and decides to expand that out to an album. The cover is a portrait of Bowie. It was partially inspired by the TV series Twin Peaks. In Bowie's mind, the detective is investigating the murder of a 14-year-old girl. As the album plays, we hear the different perspectives from each of the characters on what's going on. 3 singles are released: The Heart's Filthy Lesson, Strangers When We Meet, and Hello Space Boy. David had planned this as a series of albums, but those sequels never happened. The album reaches number 8 in the UK and 21 in the US. To support the album, David goes out on tour, but the tour is heavily criticized because he only plays newer songs. None of his old hits are included in the tour. He decided to celebrate his 50th birthday with a concert with a bunch of his friends at Madison Square Garden. And then in 1997, he releases the album called Earthling. I find the lead-off, Little Wonder, an amusing track. I also like 7 Years in Tibet and Dead Men Walking, which Bowie has said was inspired by Neil Young. And it's about rock staying young while the rest of us are all getting old. The album got positive reviews from critics, some of them saying it was best Bowie music in over a decade. In the UK, it reaches number 6, and in the US, it reaches 39. As the decade is coming to an end in 1999, David Bowie decides to record 10 new original songs for a computer game. The game is called Omicron, The Nomad Soul. He and his wife Iman also voiced characters based on their likenesses, which was in the game. The game didn't really sell very well, and planned sequels did not happen. Then Bowie decides to take some of those songs from the video game and re-record them and put them on a new album, which he called Hours, which is more in the style of his old album, Hunky Dory. I like the opening, Thursday's Child, Something in the Air, Survive, and The Pretty Things Are Going to Hell. It reaches number 5 in the UK, but did not chart in the US. The first Bowie album not to chart since 1972. This is often referred to as one of David Bowie's weakest albums. Now, as usual, I've created a Spotify playlist where you can listen to some of the songs that I've talked about in this episode. And here's the link, and I'll also put it in the comments below. So the decade of the 90s was a weird time for Bowie. You remember it started out actually with Tin Machine, then he closed that down. Then he made some albums on his own, some of which were well received, some which weren't. And then he ended the decade with a video game. Well, you know David Bowie, things are always changing. Now we'll look at what happens in the next decade and moving forward in the next episode. Thanks for watching. Until next time, keep it rockin'. If you liked this episode, hit the like button, and you can also leave me a comment down below, and I'll respond to you. If you subscribe, we'll let you know when future episodes come out.